Hello everybody, welcome. My name is Erin Peña. I'm a professional artist living in Minneapolis, Minnesota. In 2025, I was awarded a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board to create this series of video tutorials covering the basics of the kind of geometric beading that I do. And this is our third video on warps, on these little warped squares. In the first video, we went over just how to make one, just a plain one. In the second video, we worked on some symmetrical graphs that would go together to make this little star. And this time, we're gonna do something similar, building off of that. A little asymmetrical, as you can see, it's mirrored rather than symmetrical all the way around, and it'll make a star like this. This one has 6 points, but you don't have to do 6. I just like 6. You can do 5. You could probably even do 7 at this size, although it does get tighter the smaller they are. But yeah, that's just a personal choice. It doesn't change this how you make it at all. Okay. So last time I went over the graphs and why they look the way they do, so we're just gonna roll right past that this time and go straight into the creation of the warp. There is a little bit of trickiness involved with working with asymmetrical warped squares, but that doesn't really come up until the final row, or perhaps it'll just be really difficult for me to illustrate it until we get to the end, so we'll talk about it there. For now, let's just make a second one of these. Okay, row 1 is our beginning ring of beads, 4 beads for A, tied in a loop with a square knot. So slide your beads down, leave yourself a comfortable amount of tail, and do your square knot. The knot will be sitting in between 2 beads, so just go ahead and working either clockwise or counterclockwise, it won't make a difference. Pass through a bead next to the knot and just pull the knot inside the bead there. Okay, that's row 1. Row 2 is going to be the same all around, AA in every corner. So we're going to pick up 2 A's here, and we're going to put those in between every bead of that beginning ring, each of those 4 beads. Try and get your beads on this second row to sit with a nice triangle, herringbone sort of look to them. Okay, one more. And this is our last one, so we're stepping up. We have to go through 2 beads to step up. Okay, that's row 2. Row 3 is going to be our first, not completely symmetrical row, so for this first corner here, pick up BB, and there we go. BB, A along the side. The next corner, AA, and A again along the side. And you can see in our graph that next we have written that parentheses times 2, which means we do that same sequence twice. So we'll do the whole thing one more time. With our BB, A, AA, and another A. And we're stepping up, so we got to get through 2 beads here at the end. Okay, pull tight. Okay, that's row 3. Row 4, we'll start off with CC in the corner. Then B, A along the side. Then AA in the corner. Get that to sit nice. And A. There we go. A, B. And that's times 2, so we'll do that again. Starting over with the CC. Dear listeners, I have a confession to make. My recording equipment died, apparently, in the middle of this particular clip, and I didn't realize until after I'd finished the rest of the star. Well, not the star, the warp. You know what I mean. Anyways, I could go back and redo it, but I don't want to. Maybe I will later. Who knows? I already did half the row, and I do trust you enough to finish the other half. And maybe I'll re-record this video later, but not in the immediate future. Okay, on to row 5. We're going to start with 2D, DD in the corner. Then C, B, maybe, there we go, B, A, AA in the corner, A, B, C, that's not where that goes, there it goes, C, D, doing that sequence over again. So that was DD in the corner, C, B, A, AA in the corner, B, C, and stepping up through 2 beads. Okay. And that's row 5. Okay, row 6. Got EE in the corner to start. Oh, that was a cat hair. Full disclosure, I had to stop and unpick some of this because the recording was lost. It's just a couple rows, but that is the reason my thread now looks shorter and more frayed, softer than it did before. That's just what happens when you have to tear out a bunch of rows. Normally, I prefer not to do that because it does weaken the thread, and it also makes it easier to split and knot. But since this is such a small little thing, and since I'm not really using it for anything except practice, it's okay. But that's just what happened there, if you noticed that. Okay, now doing the sequence for a second time. E, D, C, B, A, 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 trying not to go through a bunch of beads at once. B, C, and D. Stepping up through 1, 2 beads. Okay. And there's row 6. Row 7, we're ready to stop increasing. So instead of adding 2 in the corners, we're just going to add 1. So we'll start with 1E in the corner here. Then another E. D. C. B. A. And just 1A in the corner. A, B, C, D, E, come back. Okay, let's do that sequence a second time. So 1E in the corner here. E, D, C, B, A, 1A in the corner. A, B, C, D, E. Okay. And that's row 7. Okay, row 8 is our joining row, our no corner row. And we're going to join this guy we've been working on to this one that I've already done here. And this one, it already has all 4 sides of the joining row, so we only need to add 2 to this one because 2 will be shared with this one. So the tricky thing to pay attention to is it will matter what order we do things in, right? Like in the past, the way we've done this is we've added our joining row, then we've sewn on our other component, right? But that may or may not work with an asymmetric warp. Say for instance, if we had not started in the top right corner, right? Like, let's say if we had instead started in the gold, then our thread right now would be coming out of this gold or this gold, one of the gold ones, say, if we had done that instead. And if we were coming out of one of the gold ones, then we would have to sort of do a half and half situation, right? We would have to either do half of our joining row, then fully zip, then the other half of our joining row, or half zip, full to the 2 joining sides, and then the rest of the zip, right? Because we'd be coming out in the middle of a point rather than at the bottom of a point. That probably sounds a little messy, and looking at this guy, it might be like, okay, so what? It works. It's no big deal. And that is true, like, but this guy is also still symmetrical. It's not all the way around symmetric, but it is mirror symmetric. If we were doing, let's say you wanted to do a star that had a different pattern on the front versus on the back, or even just different colors, then that would be a different ballgame, right? Like, then all of a sudden you wouldn't be able to match up here or also match up there. There would only be one very specific orientation that would work. So where you start a warp will matter, perhaps, if you choose to do a star that is slightly more complex. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say, pretty much. So let's just finish this guy up. And first, let's get that tail taken care of. Just sew through a couple beads there. Pull it tight. Trim it off. Okay. All right, now I think we just decided, right, that it doesn't matter if we zip or join first. So let's join first because that's my preference. So I'm going to do 2 sides of the joining row here. And that's going to be E, E, D, C, B, stab myself. One of the hazards of the job. A, through the corner there. Okay, and then one more side, going back in the opposite direction. A, oh, it's hiding under the sticker. There it is. B, C, D, and then 2E. Okay. Now we'll hold it up. and start to zip by weaving back and forth between this finished warps joining row and our working warps penultimate row, I guess, the row below the joining row. Okay, go through a couple beads and then pull it tight. There we go. And as we round the corner, round the point, I'm going to go through the corner of our working warp and then back down through the joining row of the finished warp, and then keep zigzagging down. Keep zipping on down. Remember to pull tight more often than I am. Okay, and through the corner of our working warp just to finish up, and then we tie it off by doing our little figure 8 once or twice, or 3 times if you're paranoid. Trim it off. Okay. And we're on the road towards becoming a star. So that was what I had for you with warps. I did want to show you a couple things, because warps are really very interesting shapes. You can do quite a lot with them. They're versatile. They're, to a certain extent, flexible, although not perhaps as much as I tried to force them to be. I spent a while this winter playing with warps and trying to make new and different shapes out of them just to see what would happen. So there's a lot of potential there. And it's just fun to play with. Okay. So that's what I have for you for right now. I'm not sure what's coming next, but I'm pretty sure there will be something coming at some point. Not sure when. We'll see. Okay, bye for now.